Hey, how's it going, guys? Hope everyone is doing well. Today I'm doing a collection update. Only CDs this time. I have a couple records I could show, but I have a big stack of CDs, so I don't want this video to be any longer than it needs to be, so just CDs today. I have a lot to show, so let's get into it, but before I show the first record, we're listening to the classic Ferdinand's Member of Immortal Damnation. I'm pretty sure this is a bootleg because this record's kind of hard to find on a original, so most likely a Russian bootleg, but it sounds good, so it doesn't really matter to me. And if you don't know, this record's I'd say kind of underrated staple of Finnish death metal, but obviously I wouldn't say it's as big as like Demilich or Demigod or Convulse, but it's like just below that level, but yeah, great shit. So we'll be rocking that today. Okay, I got some good variety. I got some death metal, some black metal, some thrash, some traditional metal, so a little bit of everything. So first up, the Chachuan Heart of Echelon. Yeah, Heart of Echelon. So these guys are a black metal band from the US, and basically this sounds like the atmospheric black metal equivalent to Iron Maiden. So obviously that's a good thing for me. You can definitely hear a lot of Iron Maiden isms in the songwriting, but mainly because of the riffs, you can tell they were listening to a lot of Iron Maiden when they made this record, specifically like Power Slave, Peace of Mind era. Not kind of, but not really like the proggy later stuff like Seventh Son, but the more traditional Maiden sound. But this was put out through Bindrune. Very simple, cool CD. So yeah, if you like atmospheric black metal and you also like Iron Maiden, and you wonder what the two would sound like combined, this is the record. So yes, Nachachuan Heart of Echelon. I think I have I have the split with Panopticon too, but that's on LP. So speaking of Panopticon, I have two by Panopticon on CD. The Scars of Man on the Once Nameless Wilderness Part 1. I forgot to order Part 2 for some reason. And Roads to the North. So of the two, I prefer this one. This one seems to be more aggressive. This one, there's more of the bluegrass traces, but if you know Part 2, that record's entirely bluegrass. This is the metal record for the parts, and the Part 2 is all bluegrass, but this one has one of my favorite Panopticon songs, which is the opening track, The Echoes of the Distant Ever song. That is definitely one of my favorite songs by Panopticon. So this was put out through Bindrune, as was this. Nice layout. So I'm late to the Panopticon bandwagon, but I've been really getting into them a lot recently. Cool CD. So I have some records I picked up recently. I'll show those when I do another vinyl update. Then this was from 2018, his most recent full length, which is a double record, but I'm an idiot, I forgot to order Part 2 for some reason. Cool how it's like a little mini replica vinyl. Nice picture. So yeah, Panopticon is definitely great. I'm an idiot for waiting so long to get into them. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't a fan, it's just he has kind of a daunting discography, so it's kind of intimidating, but I've been going through his discography and checking out the different records, and what I've heard so far I fell in love with. So I think the live record that came out this year I've shown, and I have 5 more records that I have not shown yet, but I'll show them in my next LP update. So yeah, Panopticon, Roads to the North, and Scars of the Once Nameless Wilderness Part 1. Great shit. And Austin's a cool guy too, from what I've seen. He's been on some of the streams, and seems like an awesome guy, so that's cool that there's a guy in black metal who's not a douchebag. But anyway, I have 4 records from Borknagar. self-titled, my favorite, The Olden Domain, The Archaic Course, and Quintessence. So Boknagar, in my opinion, are pretty underrated in terms of old school Norwegian black metal. When people think of the big names, who they think of, like Mayhem, Immortal, Burst of Satyricon, Dark Throne. People don't really seem to mention these guys, but I don't know why. Maybe because this record it's basically like kind of early enslaved worship, but that's kind of an unfair comparison just to knock a band off because they sound similar to another band, but oh well, that's kind of a stupid problem, but whatever, so. This one's definitely, they're not, like, I was gonna say they're most generic, but they're, like, of these first four, they're least original. You can tell they were wearing the influences on the sleeve the most with this record. I know OGs is hard to find of this, especially on LP. If you want the LP, it's like $200, even for the reissue, so good luck, but I got these all in a lot on eBay for all four. It was only $70, so that's a good deal. So yes, self-titled. Then my favorite, The Olden Domain. Yeah, The Olden Domain. So this one, each record's gotten slightly more progressive, just like Enslaved has gotten more progressive over time. This record, there's a little bit of clean vocals from, I think, their keyboard player, maybe. I could be wrong. Oh yeah, put this one out. This one is through Malicious Records, put out this one. And then, yeah, these three are all through Century Media. So like I said, this has some clean vocals from, I think, their keyboard player. It's a little bit less raw and more accessible than their self-titled record, but I definitely prefer to the self-titled record because it's starting to. This is where they're getting a little bit more original, but they're still a little bit wearing the influences on their sleeves, just a little bit. But yeah, it's still a great record. Then I think this is where they definitely found their own sound with this record. The Archaic Course, so more progressive than The Olden Domain in the self-titled, but not in a like pretentious progressive way. It's just like, fuck. And I just dropped the sleeve, good job. But by progressive I mean like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's progressive in a different kind of way. It's kind of hard to explain. You'll have to listen to it for yourself to know what I mean, but yeah, I know these records are easy to find, but the self-titled's kind of a pain in the ass to find, especially if you want it on vinyl. And then we have Quintessence, their fourth full length, I think fourth. I know they have like 10 other albums after this. I haven't heard any of them, so I definitely need to get on it. And this one is more progressive than the first three. And I believe ICX Vortex, who was in Demu Borgir for a minute, sang on this record, but he also sang on a Demu Borgir record, but that record he sang on was kind of terrible, so oh well. But yeah, his vocals are great though, but I know now they've become a lot more progressive than any of these records, and they've like almost abandoned the black metal entirely, but on these records they're still very much black metal, but in the progressive type of way. But the first two you could argue are a little bit more raw, and the third one's like I said, their discography, each album's went from raw to more and more progressive, but it's not a big jump like, oh, one's super raw and oh, next one's all proggy and shit. But it's been it's been a natural progression. That's what I meant to say, not gentle, but yeah. So Boknagar, if people say these guys are just early enslaved worship, don't write them off because of that. There's definitely a lot worse bands somebody could pay homage to than Enslaved, so I guess that's good. Okay, we have a one-off. Filling in the holes, I hear people say that, of my incantation collection, but yeah, I don't like when people say filling in the holes, because it just seems like, oh, I'm just buying an album to have in my collection because I want everything by this band, but even if the record's not good, so. But this is actually good, but I'm not a completist, so if a band has a crap record, I don't care how much I love the band, I won't buy the complete record, so like, and a good example of that is, my local record stores had a copy of Octagon by Bathory for 3 years. Bathory's one of my favorite bands, but I refuse to buy it, even though it's only like $15. I'm not buying that, because I could spend $15 on a record that doesn't suck, so. Yeah, but this isn't a full length, it's just an EP. I think this came out in between Diabolical Conquest and Nemesis Divina. Nemesis Divina, wow. Mortal Throne of Nazarene, that I was thinking Satyricon, but yeah. So this came out in between Nemesis Divina, fuck, goddamn, I said it again. In between Diabolical Conquest and, wow. Whatever the second record is, I just said the name again, but whatever, so. Yeah, it says John Kyle Craig session vocals, so maybe he already left at this point, but this is, I think, after he had already left, but he came back to do this EP, I guess, but anyway, there is, I think, the original EP was, I think, 7 songs, 6 original songs, and a cover of Scream Bloody Gore by Death, and there's also 3, I think, yes, 4 bonus live tracks. And it's Incantation. I don't need to explain what Incantation sounds like, so you should all be familiar with Incantation at this point, but yeah. Almost have everything by them, at least full-length wise. I'm just missing, I think, 2 full-lengths, and I'll have them all, but yeah. My favorite by them is either Diabolical Conquest or The Infernal Storm, depending on my mood for the day. But yeah. Okay, here's another band. I think it's slightly underrated, but that could be held for argument. This is Sinister with the Nuclear Blast recordings. So this is a box set that has 4 records. It has Hate, Aggressive Measures, Savage of Grace, and Afterburn. Yeah, Afterburner. I have Hate on. I have the first 3 on vinyl and like the 2009 record on vinyl also, but I'm missing these 3 records, so this is mainly why I bought those. So yeah, opens up like this. So you have the Hate CD and the booklet. There's Aggressive Measures. Oops. And then Afterburner and Savage Grace. So Sinister, they sound more American than their other counterparts in the scene. Well, not really, because the Netherlands is kind of a weird scene when it comes to death metal, because you have the more like slow and doomy stuff like not like Asphyx and like Asphyx and this, but not as doomy as Asphyx, but there's still moments of doom. And then you also have the faster stuff like Pestilence, but this definitely sounds closer to Pestilence than Asphyx, because it's not doomy. It's definitely more American sounding, kind of Floridian, but at least on like Aggressive Measures afterwards they sound Floridian. Their first 2 records specifically Diabolical Summoning, that sounds kind of New York sounding, kind of like early Cannibal Corpse or early Suffocation mixed together. But these 3 definitely sound Floridian, kind of like Morbid Angel or Monstrosity in that kind of vein. So if you're a fan of either of those bands, you should definitely give Sinister a listen. And if you like the New York stuff, like early Cannibal Corpse, like the Bleeding Ear Cannibal Corpse mixed with like Pierce From Within Suffocation, then check out the first 3 records. But yeah, Sinister, kind of underrated, but you can argue that they're not, but I definitely enjoy them a lot. So yeah, Sinister, the Nuclear Blast recordings. This wasn't hard to find on eBay, so hope it's probably still readily available, I would imagine. Okay, so here is another underrated classic. Epitaph, Seaman Salvation. Yeah, I actually got that one right, so. These guys are Swedish, but they don't sound Swedish. They definitely sound... They definitely sound like their counterparts in Cemetery. They definitely sound closer to that first Cemetery record than they do like Dismember and Tomb. They don't really have the buzz, sorry guitar tone. The guitar tone's definitely a lot thicker, and they also sound, you can also make a comparison to this. They definitely sound like early Vomitory too. But those guys definitely sound American, just like these guys. And this is a great record too. I'm not talking about this, but great record also. Just to bring that up there. Because Vomitory needs more love. They're also underrated in my opinion, but... So if you want a good record that's from Sweden, but doesn't sound Swedish, it definitely sounds American. American mixed with Finnish, kind of, so like, I guess Vomitory, Cemetery, and like Demigod mixed together, you basically get this, and throw in a little bit of early Cannibal Corpse too, so yeah. One of my favorite album covers of all time too, so that's awesome. Who put this out? I think this was put out through Dark Symphonies, The Crypt. So yeah, this was on eBay, so it shouldn't be hard to find. I know Dark Symphonies, they always reissue good classics, so yeah. If you are not familiar with this record, I suggest you definitely get on it. This is a great record, so yes. Epitaph, Semen Salvation. Okay, next I have 4 albums by Ulver. I've been getting into the non-metal era of Ulver recently. So we have Perdition City, Blood Inside, Shadows of the Sun, and Childhood's End. So I was listening to this one last night. So that's definitely, Perdition City is definitely a good album title for this, because this is a good record that you could, if you try to listen to it, if you try to actually pay attention, just like listen to it at your house, it wouldn't really work, the atmosphere wouldn't work, but I suggest that you go around, driving around the city and listen to it. It would definitely make sense in that kind of situation, but it also sounds like it could be a soundtrack to some like sci-fi movie that takes place in the 2500s, so definitely sounds super futuristic sounding. There's some like cool like futuristic spacey like saxophone work, and Garm's vocals are kind of like more like not poppy, but like more kind of subdued than some of the other records, because he's changed his vocals a lot, but on here they definitely sound more subdued and more slowed down in the mix. And at this point, Ulver isn't metal anymore, so if you're, I only like metal, then oh well, that's your own problem. But people who only like metal are boring, but that's a topic for another day. But then we have Blood Inside. So this is one thing that Ulver tends to do a lot is they change styles a lot, so one album doesn't sound like the next record, so this one is kind of like more, like, not dancey, but like definitely doesn't sound like this. There's like slightly more electronics, it's kind of like spaced out in a way, but this one's kind of definitely, I would say, one of the more unique records in my opinion, so this was put out through the End Records, who I know are no longer together, or no longer a label, I said together, but then we have this Shadows of the Sun. This might be a hot take, but this might actually be my favorite Ulver record now. I can't believe I'm actually saying that, but I never thought I would say that. So I used to be one of those guys that was like, oh, it's only the first three, I don't care, but man, I don't know, this actually became my favorite. Now I'm gonna say it's my favorite Wolf record now, so this one is very, very relaxing, but if you are depressed, do not listen to it. You will not have a good time. It is very depressing, it's very melancholic, it's very slow, it's very atmospheric. This is a good record to put on if you just want to relax and forget about everything, but unless you're depressed, do not do that. You will be even more depressed once you listen to this record. It's very sad and depressing sounding. Then we have Childhood's End, which this is just a covers record, but oh, I didn't see that. Cool. I guess I got a sticker, flyer from Norway. That's cool. But this is a covers record, but what was the favorite song on here that I sent somebody? I think it was Magic Hollow, but cool like booklets. So this is just a covers record like I said, but I'm not familiar with any of the bands that they covered, but this one is definitely a lot more upbeat than Shadows of the Sun or Blood Inside, because those records are more like laid back and subdued. This one's definitely more upbeat and not in your face, but more like up front. I don't know why I'm doing that, but yeah, I don't know any of these bands that they covered, so weird album cover. It's just some people chasing some guy who's fucking naked. I don't know why, but I know it's an old cover from I think World War II, but it's still kind of weird. So yeah. So definitely of my favorites, Blood Inside is definitely the best in my opinion, but these are all great, so, well, not Blood Inside, Shadows of the Sun. So if I had to go favorite to least favorite, it'd be this is my favorite, then Blood Inside, then Perdition City, then Childhood's End, but who cares, because ranking videos are stupid, but yeah. Overrules, I'm an idiot for waiting so long to get into the non-metal stuff, so yeah, don't be like me, go get some over. This shit rules. Okay, so we have two records from a band who I think they get written off because they're kind of cheesy, but I still enjoy them. So I have two records by Tankard. I got Chemical Invasion and The Morning After, so if you know your German thrash history, you know these guys are part of the Teutonic Four with Destruction, Sodom, and Creator, but there's a bunch of other good German thrash bands too, like Death Row, Paradox, Protector. Those are some of my other favorites, so. But Tankard, unlike the early records from Creator or Sodom or Destruction, they don't have any of the proto-death or proto-black metal trappings of those bands. They're definitely more straightforward, just pure head thrash. And this is definitely my favorite record by Tankard, but I used to say Zombie Attack was my favorite, but after listening to this last night, I realized this is definitely my favorite by them. It's definitely super aggressive, but not like death metal or black metal leaning, like say like Endless Pain by Creator or Persecution Mania by Sodom or Infernal Overkill by Destruction. Doesn't sound like that at all. Just definitely, it sounds kind of American, but it's a lot more aggressive than a lot of American bands were releasing records at the time. This is their second record, by the way, Zombie Attack, is their debut, which I have on vinyl. Then we have The Morning After Deluxe Edition. So this has the album The Morning After and their EP Alien. And they have a very stupid mascot, just some drunk alien. But when your band's called Tankard, it's kind of hard to take yourself too seriously, but sure, the lyrics are super cheesy, but the music is still great, and it backs up the The lyrics are cheesy, but the music's great, and don't let the cheesy lyrics take away from the music. So yeah, Tankard, The Morning After, and Chemical Invasion. I want to get these on LP eventually, but the CDs work for now. Okay, last one. I got 2 records by Running Wild, Gates to Purgatory, and Death or Glory. So these guys are I was gonna say thrash, but it's kind of thrash, but it sounds like a faster version of Judas Priest in my opinion. So, like Destruction, Sodom, and Creator, you can tell they were definitely listening to more like Venom and maybe like the Bathory demos when they first started out, but Running Wild, you could tell definitely leaning more towards Judas Priest and Motorhead style, but especially on this one even though this one came out first, this one I think is better, but this one has more slower moments, and those slower moments definitely sound like what would be on, like, say, like, Stained Class. The slower moments on Stained Class are like Defenders of the Faith. And then we have this one, kind of same thing, but there's more, like, this one's straight ahead, a lot more faster than the Gates to Purgatory, but there's still some slower moments on this one, but I know Under Jolly Roger seems to be the most popular record. I still need to get that album, but I have these 2 for now, so that's good. So yeah, if you want basically the German thrash equivalent to Judas Priest, this is your band. So Running Wild, Gates to Purgatory, and Death or Glory. Hopefully I didn't breeze through these too quickly, but oh fuck, I'll show 1 record, why not? Okay, I wasn't gonna show any vinyl, but I figured I should just show this because I've been listening to this a lot and I want to talk about it, so fuck it. This is Skeletal Remains with The Entombment of Chaos. So these guys are from LA, I think. Yeah, LA or Huntington Beach, California. And basically, I know this is their 4th full length. They have, I forget what the debut was called, but they had Condemned to Misery, Devouring Mortality, which came out in 2018, and then this one, but this I like better than their 2nd record and their debut, but I don't know if I like it know if I like it better than Devouring Mortality yet. That record was definitely one of my favorites of 2018, but this record, the only knock I have against this record is this record is definitely better experience as a whole record, but there isn't like one song that's like, oh, that's the couple songs you go back to. It's definitely more of a full album experience than just a pick and choose a couple of favorite songs. So I guess that could be considered a downside, but I guess that's why you make music, so people listen to your whole albums. But favorite song in this one is definitely Conjuration of Flesh or Tombs of Chaos. And musically it sounds like a mix of Take, Testimony of the Ancients era Pestilence, Erosion of Sanity era Gorguts, and Formulas Fail to the Flesh era Morbid Angel. Put that all in the blender, and basically that's what this sounds like. But vocally, I know their last record, some people gave it some critiques for sounding too much like Martin Van Drunen, but on here, his vocals sound kind of like Patrick from Pestilence, who's still in the band. He's on Testimony. He took over the vocals when Martin Van Drunen left, but vocally he sounds like a mix of Patrick and John Tardy, so imagine that kind of vocal style. And great production courtesy of Dan Sueno, but everything he's produced sounds great, so it's not surprising. So yeah, Skeletal Remains, The Entombment of Chaos, definitely one of my favorites of the year, but I don't know if this is their best record yet, but I still need to give it some more spins. I guess we'll see in like a year how I feel about it, so that's it. Thank you for watching. Hope I didn't run through this stuff too quickly and explain it bad, but oh well. Okay, hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe, don't get corona. Goodbye.